Purchasing a half beef can be a nerve-wracking process. Your cut sheet choices will be with you until the animal is gone, so maximizing this purchase is an absolute must. Today I'm going to share with you one of the changes that I make yearly that not only saves me time, but also takes a lesser quality meat, making it more desirable. Join me as we cook up 3 different meals, plus talk about pricing and sourcing of our recent American Wagyu purchase. Recently, we decided it was time to restock our freezer beef, so I called our friends at Two Creek Butchery. Two Creek offers custom butchering in Southwest Missouri and is owned by a local farmer and rancher who raises American Wagyu and also happens to be my brother. He takes his own animals from birth to butcher without ever leaving the property. This passes on considerable savings to the consumer because there is no middleman to take a piece of the profits. I'll talk more about the surprisingly low cost of our beef a bit later, but first I want to discuss one of the changes that I made that make my life easier as a busy mom with 7 mouths to feed. For years, round steak was a cut that we rarely used. Even when tenderized, it was hard for the kids to eat, and it was just not a cut I considered highly versatile until I started requesting to have it jerky sliced. With this one simple change, it opened up a world of possibilities in the kitchen. This meat now thaws super easy and cooks incredibly fast, making it one of my go-tos in the kitchen. The first way I'm showing you how to use the sliced round is by using it as a topping for a salad, but it also goes great as a topping for baked potatoes, pot pie, or more. The process of chopping, washing, and drying the lettuce, which you just saw me complete, actually takes longer than the time that it takes to cook and slice up this meat. The start to finish time on this meal is around 15 to 20 minutes, just depending on how many people you're serving and if you're making your own dressing or using a store-bought version. To cook up the sliced round, I heated up my cast iron double burner griddle up on pretty high heat and then tossed those slices on to sear for a minute to a minute and a half on the first side, then flipped them over for 30 seconds before pulling them off. Now, before I flipped them the initial time, I did season one side of the meat, but I do not season the second. My reasoning here is that the surface area being so large, it is really easy to overseason when adding it to both sides, which is a mistake that I've only made once. One thing I do want to point out that is noteworthy here is that this footage is neither sped up nor slowed down, so you're seeing how fast this meat can cook up in real time. With the searing and cool down complete, it's time to get it chopped up. I tend to cut decently small strips for salads, but cut even smaller pieces for the baby. Now the next step is completely optional and the difference between a 10-minute to 15-minute recipe and a 20-minute recipe. But we are going to mix up a quick homemade dressing. Now, in my kitchen, anytime I pull out my hand blender, I always have somebody ready to grab on and wanting to participate. So no shortage of helpers here, but what we're doing is making a quick mayonnaise-based dressing, and I will link the mayo recipe down in the description. And then I'm adding a few extra ingredients to it, like lemon essential oil, some extra salt, and some garlic. Now I just thin this to taste, or however we want it to be pourable, and find the right desired consistency by adding a little bit of water to get it exactly where we want it. Plating this up is actually really easy. Just top a bed of greens with a healthy serving of your steak, feta cheese, and then I added the dressing. Now, some of my family love to add croutons, and you can add any other toppings that you desire. We also love this with blue cheese if we don't have feta on hand, and often serve it with a side of baked potato. If you are finding this helpful so far and would like to see more content similar, make sure to hit the subscribe button because I am really close to hitting a goal of 5,000 subscribers, which for a tiny channel like mine is a really, really big deal, and I really appreciate all of your support. So the next thing we're gonna do is go ahead and warm up this meat for another delicious meal. Now the package does say jerky meat, which I mentioned before is what we order. We do make homemade beef jerky with this sometimes, and it turns out really, really good, but that's not what we're gonna make right now. This is our homemade chow mein. Now, this is something that my kids absolutely enjoy. It's something that my husband's family grew up eating as kids, and it has been a really nice addition to our meal routine, often being requested if we haven't had it soon enough. So, we're starting off here with some cabbage that I'm going to saute with some oil, salt, and pepper. And I do have the lid on it, as you can see there, to just kind of steam it up and get it really nice and caramelized while the meat is on the griddle again, just like it was the night before. I used about a half of my pack of the meat for this specific meal, meaning it would be really great to save that leftover and use it the following day for your steak salad or any other meal that you're wanting a steak topping with, just to have that ready to go. While the meat finishes up, I added a can of bean sprouts and 2 cans of chopped suey vegetables to the cabbage, gave it a good toss, and let it heat through while I finished cooking the meat. With the searing complete and a rest finished for the meat, it was time to go ahead and chop up what we were going to use for the chow mein. The rest I just went ahead and put in the refrigerator so that I could have that for days going forward. With the chop complete, all you have to do is add it directly back to the pan. And then I'm going to add some Bragg's liquid aminos. If you have soy sauce and prefer that, you can always use that as well. We actually generally keep both, but we're out of soy at this particular time, so the Bragg's had to do in a pinch. Once you get it completely mixed and heated back through, you're ready to go ahead and plate it up. We serve this over a bed of rice, which I start first before anything else just to make sure it has plenty of time to cook. Now, I will admit, I actually don't find this meal very visually appealing, but that doesn't stop anybody in the house from asking for seconds or even thirds as they tear this meal apart once it hits the table. And the added bonus for us as parents is that we don't have to spend our entire meal cutting up little pieces of steak so that everyone can enjoy the meal. We actually get to eat too. And if you're familiar with having a table full of littles, that can sometimes be a challenge. Additional meals to consider when using a sliced steak like this would be something like a beef and broccoli, or if you're looking at Mexican meals, something like fajitas or chimichangas, or even sandwiches like a French dip, or the next meal I'm about to prepare, which would be a Philly cheesesteak. Now, if you're looking for a traditional Philly, I hate to tell you, I might not be your girl, but if you're looking for a delicious sandwich inspired by the taste of Philadelphia, this one will leave your mouth watering and wanting more. To get started, I chopped up some onions and some green peppers, as well as sliced up the round steak into bite-sized pieces before the sear this time, which is different than what I've been showing you before. The reason that I do this is because I want those small pieces ready to go as soon as they come out of the pan with individual searing on all sides. Now, while we're looking at this gorgeous beef again, let's talk a little bit about the pricing. Our half of beef was graded prime because it's USDA inspected, and it again is an American Wagyu with a hanging weight right at 400 pounds. The price per pound is based off the hanging weight, and ours was $4.75 a pound as of March 24. So if you're watching this a few years down the road and wondering if you can still get that same price, you're going to have to check with the link in the description to call and see what they have available and what the pricing will be at this point. They also offer choice grade, which is available at a lower price. The purchase price for our 400-pound half came right about $1,900, and this will feed our family for over a year. This is not grass-fed. We've tried that before. The flavor was so similar to venison that I honestly could not justify the cost when we can simply harvest more deer in the fall and receive a very, very similar flavor profile. I know that's important to some, but for me, I'm looking for flavor, and this beef delivers it in a major way. So back to the pricing. How does that stack up to the pricing in your area? I would love for the comments to be helpful for people all over the country as they look to see what's normal in their area. Additionally, if you want updated pricing details or to see what's available, the link for this butchery is down in the comments, as well as links to Shop My Kitchen if you've seen anything that you're interested in along the way. Now back to the sandwich. I'm adding mayo to the buns before toasting them off on the griddle. Of course, you can use butter, and I know that's what people traditionally use, but long, long ago, I saw a tip when watching a home shopping network, maybe? I'm not sure. But they were saying that to get bread really toasted well, butter isn't the secret that mayo is. And I tried it and we have loved it ever since. So, mayo on the bun on the inside, and then we're throwing those down on the griddle as soon as they're complete before going ahead and getting started on the actual middle ingredients, the good part of the sandwich. With the buns complete, I'm caramelizing the onions. So they are going into a cast iron skillet that's really hot with some oil as well as with the peppers. Now it's up to you on how you want to combine those. I just throw both in the pan and give them a really nice saute until they sweat down considerably and get really delicious. Now my kitchen's always busy, as you can see. My girls are up to no good over by the pantry, and I could not help but show you what was going on. So if you saw those blankets behind me, you'd have a little bit of detail about the chaos that goes on behind the scenes when things are going on around our house. Now those onions and peppers are ready to go, so I'm pulling them out of the pan. I could leave them in, but I'm going to put the meat in the same exact skillet, and I don't want them to soak up any of the juice or serve as a barrier to prevent the meat from getting a good contact with the skillet to get a good caramelization. Now, the secret here is to make sure that that meat does not get moved too early. So when I first put it in there, I let it set for quite a bit of time before actually moving it at all. And then I just like to go ahead and toss it around in the pan a time or two to make sure that we're getting all of the sides completely cooked so that there's no issue with serving raw meat to any of my kiddos. As the meat finishes up, I heated that griddle back up one more time and I'm putting down the onions and the peppers. Now, I could, of course, go ahead and mix them back in the skillet, but the meat itself had quite a bit of juice that comes off of it, which is part of the beauty of that Wagyu. It has really good marbling, even in the cuts that are traditionally a little bit more lean, but that's not something that I wanted in my Philly. I did not want it soggy and sloppy once it hit the bread. So I'm taking that meat, throwing it out on the skillet, and I'm gonna go ahead and get it all tossed around to where it is ready to go before it hits the bread. With the toss complete, there's only one thing left to do, which is to top the whole griddle with provolone cheese. Now, I added 5 slices here and it covered the majority of it, but when we put these on the table, a few of the kiddos did go ahead and grab out a little extra, so next time I'll probably throw a few more on. With the melt complete of the cheese, it's time to go ahead and layer it up. So I am just adding everything here off the griddle straight into the bun. And once I get all 7 complete, I'll be able to sit down and enjoy this with my family as well. I hope my tip on sliced round steak makes dinner at your house easier, just like it has at mine. If you are interested in seeing more meals from my kitchen to yours, check these links. And until next time, bye friends.